On Flickering Dreams this week, we have superhero action with The Marvels. We have French murder mystery Anatomy of a Fall. Nicolas Cage is back in an A24 production Dream Scenario. And Michael Fassbender and David Fincher team up for The Killer on Netflix. We also have the new British film How to Have Sex, not an instruction manual. And I'll also be looking at a new documentary set in Scotland called Loch Ness, They Created a Monster. Finally, Andy Godfrey will look at a new all-singing, all-dancing version of the Nativity story in Journey to Bethlehem. Also, we have the top 10 box office for UK and Ireland. And for video viewers, we have a new quiz, Dr. Bob's Movie Mashup Mystery. At least I think that's what I call it. Something like that. That's all on this week's Flickering Dreams. So it's been an incredibly busy week or couple of weeks at the movies. And from my opinion, you may well differ significantly. Been a lot of good stuff out there. I keep reaching in my reviews have been horribly consistent towards the top end. So you're going to horribly abuse me of that like you did last week with Bottoms. Yeah. But we're going to start tonight by looking at the latest in the superhero franchise, The Marvels. Who was going to introduce the Marvels? Oh, I was going to introduce the Marvels. So in the Marvels, we have Brie Larson back as Captain Marvel, and joining her are Teyonah Parris as Captain Rambeau, who gained her powers, if you remember, in the WandaVision TV show, and Iman Vellani, who is Miss Marvel in that TV series. And in the Marvels, they generally get their powers interchanged, as you will see here.
Okay, so our powers are entangled. I can manipulate light energy. And you, I could totally show you. No! Not again! Hi. Where's our daughter? Wherever you were.
So, don't know if we'll have different opinions on this. I think we've all seen the Marvels. Have we?
I haven't seen it yet, Bob.
You have not seen it yet. Okay,
I haven't
right.
seen it.
So, Scott, why don't you start? What's your view?
Okay, well, I'm going to start off by being the controversial one here and saying that I absolutely loved this movie.
Oh.
So, for me, going into this one, Captain Marvel has been my lowest ranked MCU movie. However, Ms. Marvel has been my highest ranked MCU TV series. So something was got to give here. And thankfully, it was the positive. I thought for me, this film was led by 3 incredible performances. I thought that Larson came back with a much better performance than she did in the first movie. I thought that Paris was a good addition in terms of the actual movie style and taking what happened from WandaVision into this. And then for me, the MVP was Iman Vellani as Ms. Marvel. Again, Kamala Khan, just like the charm that she showed in the TV series, I thought her and her family brought so much comic energy to this that it was just so lovable and so endearing to me personally to watch these characters again. I thought in terms of the action, yes, there's a lot of CGI, crashy smashy, flying around all over the place, but I thought it was really fun and entertaining for the most part. In terms of the narrative, I can see what the villain's perspective was. We've got Zawe, I think you pronounce her first name, Ashton, who plays a character called Dar-Ben. Now, she essentially she's got a vendetta against Captain Marvel for something that happened in the past relating to her own home planet. and she is out to seek revenge in order to try and help restore her planet to its former glory, or to former health in a way. And I thought this was a very worthy cause. It's one of those villains where you're like, yeah, she's doing evil things, but I can understand why.
Great and good.
I can understand. She's got a moral position that I can be like, she's trying to save her own planet. She's the hero of her own. She is the hero of her own story in this one. So I really dug that part of it. This film has so much comedy. There was maybe about 10 people on the screen that I was at, and I think for the most part we were all laughing. I knew that I was laughing, sometimes out loud, and there's some side quests on here that felt like they were for me. I can't go too far into spoilers, except to say that there's a particular planet that involves... You're laughing already. You know what I'm talking about. That involves... Let's just say music and keep it at that. I absolutely loved that. I can imagine myself loving that planet. I actually found out this week that it's a rough storyline from an episode of Transformers in the 80s that did that. And that might be where they took it from. But that was so entertaining. I'm going to say the word memory. And again, absolutely made for me. Adored that scene so much. Super funny. It might be stupid. Funny. I've heard lots of people criticize these things that I found really funny. But I was all on board for it. And so, yeah, as a whole, the movie just was very entertaining for me, and unexpectedly so. And then we get to the mid-credit scene, which, again, I can't speak about, but I let out an audible gasp. No, I found myself, it happened, I went, and then I quickly was like looking around at people beside me, because I was like, oh, I made a noise. But I was so excited by it, and it was like, everything about this movie that I was told was so awful. I was like, I don't care. I had the best time. And yeah, my score is going to be very at odds with the majority of people on the internet.
Okay, that's interesting. That scene on the planet with music, shall we say, I agree, was really, really funny. There was a wonderful line exchange between Captain Rambo and Kamala Khan, where Rambo says, "Are you thinking up some great what was the phrase? You were thinking up some great super fan storylines at this scene."
I like fan fiction. Yeah,
fan fiction. That's the word. Yeah. Are you thinking of some really great fan fiction lines here for Captain Marvel? And she said, "Yeah, so much." And I thought there were some really good lines like that. Emma, you were laughing along with those bits. Do you agree with that?
I mean, Scott says controversial opinion. I say the right opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I had so much fun watching this. I said in the group chat, it was like, oh, what are you seeing today? I was like, I'm seeing the Marvels followed by the Marvels in 3D. For many reasons. I mean, the 3D was fun, especially in the other scene we won't talk about for spoilers. I mean, you don't need to see it in 3D, though.
No.
It's just a bit pointless these days. But I had so much fun. I enjoyed Captain Marvel for the retro side of it. So I did feel like that was missing a little bit, obviously, bringing it right up to date. But having just watched the Miss Marvel series, I absolutely loved that. I binge watched it in a row, and so I was really looking forward to it. And Scott, as you said, that the Khan family are absolutely amazing. I love
it. It reminded me very much of the family in Blue Beetle, which was one of the things I liked about that film. It really kind of had a nice family vibe going on in that film, which I really liked, and I found the same here as well.
Yeah, great dynamic. And then I mean, they had a great dynamic no matter who they were in a scene with, I just thought they played off really well against everyone. And then obviously the three leads of this, again, all great together. I love the montage scene of the training montage scene.
Yes.
Which I was like, oh, this is going to be terrible. But actually, like, I really started to like enjoy myself. I was a bit sad that it was short, that short. But oh God, I don't really have a lot of quibbles about the film itself. Perhaps only the fact that obviously we don't know where Captain Marvel has really been, and so to get these bits of backstory just thrown in, which seems quite sudden. Obviously, the trouble with our villain, what happened to her on that planet. It felt a little, I don't know, a little out of left field, but ultimately, I just had a great time.
Can one of you, maybe more Marvel astute people, explain to me about the jump points and the little hexagons that appear? When did that technology? Where did that technology come from, and when was it introduced in the Marvel universe? Because it kind of just said, "Oh, okay, they're doing this, are they?"
Yeah, I don't know.
There is a very similar thing. Having just been to Walt Disney World and ridden the new Guardians of the Galaxy ride at Epcot, which is absolutely fantastic, I have to say. That includes that capability, that kind of hexagonal jump point thing. So, but I don't remember it being in the Guardians film. So I was a little bit confused as where this advanced technology came from that suddenly says, well, here it is. And I thought you might know.
I mean, it's from the power of the bracelet. So we've only seen the bracelet. Yeah, we've seen it in Ms. Marvel in the TV series about what she can do with it. But she's only new to it and she was learning what was used to it. Maybe this Starben just has more information and more knowledge about what it can do. And
but they seem to be Nick Fury and the team seem to be using these jump points already before any of the plot in this film happened. So I got a little bit lost there about. I thought maybe there was something in one of the other series that I haven't seen, because I went into this having watched WandaVision but not having watched Miss Marvel. So I was a little bit worried I was going to be a bit lost. But to be honest, I didn't need to worry. There was that nice little montage at the beginning, very very funny little kind of cartoon based drawings at the beginning, which kind of filled in some of the gaps for you. And at the end of the day, all you need to know is that there's these three women with superpowers, and when this thing happens with the MacGuffin, they get basically switched and conjoined whenever they use their powers. And
I don't know if it was maybe because the only other series that I haven't seen, and I was going to try and do it before going to see this, but I prioritised Ms. Marvel, was Secret Invasion, which obviously crosses over a little bit with this, and I don't know whether maybe it was something in that.
Yeah. I mean, can I just ask, as somebody who hasn't seen it then, how much of the backstory to the central characters do you need to know to enjoy this film?
Nothing.
Okay, great, thank you.
Like I say,
I'm not really up on my Marvels, if I'm honest.
Like you say, you just need to know there's these three women, Captain Marvel, Captain Rambo, who got her powers in the WandaVision TV series, and Miss Marvel, who has these powers because of this bracelet thing she found. And that's all you really need to know.
Right.
I mean,
thank you.
I would agree with all of you. I mean, I thought this was a great film. First of all, just because of the fact it's almost entirely female driven, right? Nia DaCosta, first American woman of color to direct a Marvel film. Three great leads. Even the three writers, which I think include DaCosta as well, are women. Even the music is written by a woman. I mean, it's girl power on show, which I thought was great. My criticisms, though, which is going to sound a little bit bizarre because it's one of my positives about the film. My positive about the film was this is 1 hour 45 minutes, which is the shortest Marvel film in history. My bladder was never in danger in this film. You can fit, in fact, you can fit 2 of these films into Killers of the Flower Moon's runtime.
Easily,
So,
yeah.
so that was really good. The problem is they tried to fit, in my opinion, 2.5 hours worth of plot into that 1 hour 45 minutes. And it was just bang, 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 bang. What the hell is going on? I didn't think the villain was particularly well introduced. There wasn't enough backstory behind the character. It just felt all rushed, and suddenly we were off doing something else and off doing something else. I mean, I had the same problem with the last Thor film as well. But this seemed worse because it was so condensed to me. So that was really my biggest criticism. I did enjoy a lot of the scenes. I did enjoy that memory moment particularly. So yeah, mixed feelings. Bizarrely, I would have liked it to have been a bit longer and just slowed down a little bit and just filled out some of the rough edges. But I can understand how they had to do it. I felt there was too much plot in it.
So definitely could have knocked it up to the 2 hour mark.
Yes,
without any trouble.
Yeah, I think so. The next one up is 7 minutes longer than that, and one is the original Kenneth Branagh Thor film, I think, or was it the second Thor film? And I can't remember what the other one was that I found that were the leading joint shortest films. No, it's gone. Oh, Incredible Hulk, I think, is the other one. So scores on the doors for this one. I'm gonna give this a 7 out of 10. Scott?
Well, I got a lot of criticism for a superhero rating of 8 out of 10 for The Flash. I'm going to get even more criticism for this one. I'm going 9 out of 10 for The Marvels.
Yeah, I'm going to look forward to that post. Okay.
I'll join you on that. It's a 9 from me.
Oh dear, that's going to make maths interesting. 9 and 9, 18, 25 divided by 3 is 8.33. I think it is. Yes, it is.
Sounds reasonable.
That makes the Marvels a superhero hit, which is good. Right, we are moving on now to a film which I think all of us have seen, which is the first one in a while, I think, and that is Anatomy of a Fall. Scott, can you introduce that for us?
Absolutely. So, Anatomy of a Fall is a French and English movie about a man who has fallen out of his house, and it's in the name. And the prime suspect in his death is his wife, Sandra, and the only witness is their partially blind son. Here's a clip.
So, as you know, the autopsy report is inconclusive about the cause of death.
Stop. I did not kill him.
That's not the point.
Il parle de tromperie.
I was honest about it.
Mais vous l'avez pas été l'année de sa mort avec cette fille avec qui vous l'avez trompé, pourquoi? Il y a quand même quelque chose d'un peu étrange dans cette situation. Vous admettez qu'il était jaloux?
No, no.
So, who's going to start on this? Andy, we've not heard from you yet, so why don't you take the honours?
I enjoyed this up until the last half hour. I think it's, bearing in mind what you just said about the Marvels, I think it's half an hour too long. It's a courtroom drama. Did she or didn't she? Did he jump? Was it suicide? Or did she push him from the attic balcony?
Did the dog do it?
Did the dog do it? It's one of those films, did she or didn't she? Great courtroom drama. Great performance by particularly Sandra Miller as the wife, who is at the centre of all this. But I felt it was too long. So we get the answer to our question, did she or didn't she? And then the film carries on for another half an hour. Redundant. Finish there. It's too long. You've told me the story. I don't need to sit for another half an hour of whatever. So I thought it was really good, but I thought it was too long. That's all I can say about it, really. So who done it? Did she or didn't she? and I felt it was half an hour too long. Once we get the resolution to the case, we're in the courtroom. The jury declares its verdict. No spoilers here. Then we get another half an hour, and I'm sat there. I was actually sat there in the screening, thinking, "Great, I can go now, no problem." And then the film just kept going and kept going and kept going. Stop! You told me the story. You don't need to. I don't need to see any of this fluff afterwards. Okay. So it's spoilt for me by being too long, but
okay.
quite good.
All right. Okay. I'll hold fire on my comments. Scott.
Well, first of all, I'm with you, Andy, at the end. It basically felt like a half an hour epilogue that we just didn't need. That we just didn't need at all. For me, I thought this was an enjoyable movie. I thought the performances were very impressive. Sandra Hüller, I would not be surprised if she got an Oscar nomination for this, to be honest with you. It was that impressive for me. I think the film in general is probably going to get an international feature nomination. Perhaps it could be in the conversation for winning as well.
Yeah.
And I don't know, a Best Director nomination, a Best Screenplay nomination could easily come with it as well. I think it's really got that strong package. The film actually won the Palme d'Or as well.
Yeah, yeah, indeed, a Palme d'Or winner. And once again, a woman director as well, Justine Triet.
Yes, indeed.
Is the director. So that's 2 films in a row here that have been directed by women, which is great.
Yeah, I thought this was just a very strong story in general. It seems like it's such a simple plot to begin with. We've got a dead body. Did he fall accidentally? Was he pushed? Or was it a suicide? And you spend the whole movie basically trying to answer that question.
But once you get the answer, there's still half an hour. Stop now. This has a very.
I'm struggling to remember what happened at the end of the film. Then
exactly because we don't pay attention anymore.
Bob, it would be spoilers.
Well, I know it would be spoiled. We're not gonna cover it here. But I mean, yeah, okay. I'm gonna have to watch it again. I'm going to have to go and watch it again.
You talked about your bladder, Bob, and you're obviously referring to the Hitchcock quote about no film should be longer than the endurance of the human bladder.
Yeah,
this one was, and very Hitchcockian feel to the film. But Hitchcock would have ended it half an hour earlier because he knew that the audience had enough by then. That was Hitchcock's great skill. Finish.
Andy, we know. Emma, how about you?
It's a bit long. It was. I just found it like I was engaged through the majority of it, but it was just very slow for me. It's not generally the sort of film I would probably choose to watch. I did avoid it at the London Film Festival in preference of other things. Glad I did, because I would have been fuming. But I don't know, that the courtroom scenes I found ridiculous, which I know Scott mentioned when we were vaguely chatting about it a couple of weeks ago.
Well,
and it was.
I want to ask Scott about this because I assume this is. I'd assume that this was kind of the French way of doing things in the court.
I mean, I can't speak for French courtrooms, to be honest with you, Bob, so I don't know if they're like that, but I don't think they can just have people talking to the judge, talking to the witness, talking to the suspect, all these different points with no real order going on. I don't think that the prosecutor can randomly just go up to the bench where the judge is and put his elbow over the bench and just casually start hanging out there. And there was just the line of questioning, the way they were talking. I was like, I get it. It's an emotional drama. They're doing it for the entertainment purposes. And sometimes I can suspend disbelief. I love Ally McBeal. I get the whole courtroom drama stuff can be silly. But there was just too many scenes. Because it's a serious movie. That's the thing as well. It's a serious movie. So I was like, no, that's just too silly. That wouldn't go down. He is very unprofessional in the way he's behaving. And just generally around the court with the way people were speaking, I was like, oh, I'm enjoying this, but that's a little bit silly. So yeah, I'm with you on that, Emma.
Yeah, I mean, I just like, one of my like staple watches is crime TV shows. And I'm not I'm not a law expert, but even watching them, I'm like, you couldn't do that. What about this? Like I'm some kind of expert. But I thought the son was very good. His
Yes,
acting in
that's
it,
Milo Machado Groner. Yeah, I thought he was
I thought
excellent.
that was really strong. Although at one point, I would have thrown that kid in jail. I was so angry in the film, and my friends and I came out, and we're both animal lovers, and we were raging. We in fact we didn't care about whatever else happened. But like the end of that film should have been that child being locked up for life. I just genuinely don't care about that child.
I mean,
the dog was a very good actor, wasn't it? I have to say, when the body was first discovered, right, the dog actually looked surprised when it was coming up the hill and said, "What's going on? What's going on?" I don't know how you train an animal to do that, but it's very good.
I mean, Mark Kermode called this one of the films of the year. No, it's not going to feature in my top 10 come the end of the year.
I'm going to put my hand up and say it might well appear in one of my films of the year. I thought it was absolutely terrific. I thought the acting was superb. I thought the direction, as you were saying, Andy, Hitchcockian in some of its aspects, was really good. I wrote my review the other day, and it's one that I keep going back to and fiddling with, because I think there was such a lot of depth in what was going on and in the story, and about in Sandra's sexuality coming in with her relationships rather with the journalist at the beginning of the film, and also the girl who comes to basically babysit and make sure that her son doesn't interact. I thought there was a real interesting dynamic going on there. And the fact that she was a writer, the fact that there's been this stealing of ideas, which we had recently in that Richard E. Grant film from a few weeks back, didn't we? Similar, there were so many different kind of dimensions of the film as we went through it, rather than it just being a simple murder mystery. That wonderful scene where they're having an argument and you see it in video up to a certain point, and then the video stops and all you hear is the audio that the jury is hearing, and you have to try and interpret what the hell is going on from that. I thought this was just a cracking film, and I sat and watched it till the end, and I didn't notice it was 2.5 hours that had gone by, and it makes me want to wonder what happened at the end of the film now, as to why I was still engaged and you guys weren't. So I thought it was terrific, and I could see this getting a number of Oscar nods, the same way that All Quiet on the Western Front did last year. Thought it was terrific. So scores on the doors. We've got 4 scores. Oh God, divide by 4 here. Make it an even number. Andy, how about you?
I was all set to give it a 7, but then it dragged on and on and on. So I'm giving it a 6.
Okay. Scott?
This one's really tough for me.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm very much between a 7 and an 8. I had gone into this with a 7. I'll say 7, but I might change my mind by the time I write my review.
7-13. Emma?
Let's say, I think it's got to be a 6.
19.
But I'm very much sort of up and down on that.
Yeah.
And I'm giving it a 9. So that's 28. Divided by 4 is 7. We pulled it back from the jaws of Missness to be a very marginal hit. But no, I loved it. So there you go. Takes all sorts, doesn't it? Right. We're half an hour into this podcast and we've only got 2 films done. We better step up our pace, haven't we? Next up, we have Dream Scenario. And Emma, can you introduce that to us?
So Nicolas Cage plays possibly the dullest man on the planet, who reaches stardom when he randomly appears in people's dreams. Here's a clip.
You've been on my mind recently. Yeah? Because you keep popping up in my dreams. You don't do anything, you're just there. So, this specific person, the remarkable nobody, I've also had that experience. Do you have a picture?
Have you been dreaming about me?
Have I been dreaming about you?
Yeah.
Right, Emma, let's start with you on dream scenario.
So I mean, you can see half of the poster possibly in my shot now. I love Nicolas Cage. He can do no wrong until now. Yeah, I genuinely was so bored and disliked this film. I was prepared for it to be a little weird, but I have issues with films that leave things horrendously wide open for your own interpretation. It feels like a bit of a cop-out to me sometimes, that it just genuinely feels like they had an idea and then didn't know how to finish it. So they went, we'll let people work it out for themselves. But
I'm with you there to a degree, yeah.
I would like to know what the filmmakers in this, what they wanted it to be. It just left me unamused, shall we say. So, I can't even think of anything genuinely good to say about it.
Oh man, that's a reaction. Scott. Oh, sorry, you've got a mouthful of food. Andy. Well, Scott finishes his peanuts or whatever.
Sorry, I haven't actually seen this film, so I've got...
Oh, you haven't?
This one.
Right.
Okay, so this reminded me of a TV series which some of you will be too young to remember, but The X-Files. And The X-Files would often leave cases like this open to interpretation at the end. I quite like that. I quite like the fact that we're not given all the facts, and there's something weird has happened, and there's no explanation given for it whatsoever, and we are left to make up our own minds about what's been going on, what hasn't been going on. I thought Nick Cage was great in this. I thought he played the puzzled man that everybody's dreaming about very well. I thought there were some good laughs in it. I thought it was quite entertaining. I sit back and just let it roll over. It's not going to break any box office records. It's not going to stir the emotions beyond the fact that I had a good time while I was watching it. I haven't really thought much about it since. But yeah, I had a good time while I was watching it. Yeah.
You said, Emma, that Nicolas Cage can do no wrong. I mean, I think he can do wrong in a lot of his films by going completely over the top.
Name 10.
Easily, right. That I praised the unbearable weight of massive talent, which is the poster you got there last year, because he was somewhat underplaying. Here, I think it's his best performance in a very long time because he completely underplays it. He is just an everyman, and yes, he has some excitable moments, but he's always keeping it under wraps, and I thought that was terrific from Nicolas Cage. Yes, it's a bit surreal in places. I noticed that Ari Aster was one of the producers of this film, and of course he made Beau is Afraid from earlier in the year, which if Beau is Afraid is a 10, then this is about a 6 in terms of craziness. But I really like the way that the film developed its first half, where he is slowly coming to the realization that he's in everybody's dreams, including those of his daughter. And I like the way that the film actually progressed from him being an item of fame and fortune to not being. And we'll just leave it at that in terms of where the plot goes. But I really did not like the ending of the film. I was on about a 9 out of 10 again, until we got about to the third reel, And then the moment that Greg appeared, if we can use Greg from Succession again in two shows running, the moment that Greg appeared in his cameo, from that point onwards, I thought, what are you doing? What are you doing with this story? And it just went off the rails for me. And as you said, Emma, didn't really know how to land the plane. That's what I said on my Radio Solent show today, because Lucy Ambash, who was the presenter, was saying, 9 out of 10. I said 7 out of 10, because it's all very well to take a plane up and fly it, but you got to land it at the end. And this is a motion picture that wonderful crews, but didn't know how to land the plane. And yeah, so I really enjoyed it, but it's a 7 out of 10 for me. Scott?
Scott hasn't
seen it. No, you haven't seen it. Sorry. Emma?
I'm going to give that a 2.
Fantastic. We'll count that. I'm giving it 4.
A 4, okay. And Andy?
I'm going to give it a 7.
7, and 4 is 18. Divided by 3 is 6 out of 10, which makes Dream Scenario a marginal miss. Yes.
Oh, that's a shame.
Oh, that's a shame.
Not a shame.
Anyway, we are a democracy. Here we go. Right. We're moving on to another film which I think might be a little bit contentious again, and that is The Killer. Andy, could you introduce this to us?
Yeah, sure. David Fincher's new film, available to watch on Netflix. We follow a highly stylized, highly paid killer whose hit goes wrong, and there are consequences because of that. Here's a clip.
This is what it takes. My process is purely logistical. If I'm effective, it's because of one simple fact. I don't give a
Right. So, Fassbender again. It's been a while since he's made a film as well, and David Fincher film. Surely it's a bang-on success. Andy?
I was absolutely bored stiff through this. We heard the narration there over that trailer. That narration runs right throughout the film. Put some life into it. Put some energy into it. Stop sending me to sleep. I've got enough tablets that make me do that. Anyway, it was about a hit. It's about a hit that goes wrong, and the consequences thereof. And I think to say much else would be spoilers. Tilda Swinton's in this for all of about 5 minutes. Blinking you miss her. I just felt that it was
telling the blue bear joke for like three of them.
Telling the blue bear joke, which has been told elsewhere. I just thought it was boring, dull, monotonous. The narration alone, as I say, was enough to put me to sleep. Once you get past that action scene at the beginning where the hit has gone wrong, there's not a lot else to keep you interested. And I was surprised for a David Fincher. I'm a fan of David Fincher. I mean, I like his movies, except for this one. I really felt this was boring, monotonous. Fassbender's okay, but this wasn't for me. I just lost interest after the first 10, 15 minutes and struggled to stay interested for the rest of it, to be honest.
Emma, I think you saw this one at London Film Festival, if I remember right, and I cacked up my schedule and went to see something else when I should have seen that. But yeah, what did you think?
Almost the complete opposite to Andy. There's this narration that goes all through the film that I really loved, and it really helps the pace of the film.
Boring beyond belief.
I did have to refresh my memory because I didn't rewatch it since the film festival. But
who is going to rewatch this, having seen it once?
Emma.
I very much felt like I was watching a graphic novel, which I really enjoyed. I thought the voiceover, the narration that he was doing, was a really good contrast to his character on screen, because he is so verbose when he's talking, and in contrast, he's a very methodical, quiet, sort of man on screen. So I thought that worked really well, and it does help in that you see him at the start, as you saw in the trailer, that he's very precise. You know, little movement, little action, does plod along, but you do see that crack as you get further into the film, as he starts to go from professional to vengeance, for want of a better word. And I just really thought that worked. The one thing that I really had against the film was the product placement, which was so obvious. Just
not obvious to me. I'm struggling to think.
Think Roger Moore James Bond films. I mean, the placement in those films was terrible. Sorry, Emma.
It wasn't an advert for Pirate Artist Typist King, was it, that I missed? Yeah.
Oh, well, that would have been acceptable.
Yeah, okay.
But
Okay.
yeah, so I did enjoy myself watching this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Scott, did you see this one as well?
I didn't get a chance to get around to this one, unfortunately.
Okay.
Or maybe fortunately, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the last film, Anatomy of a Fall, being Hitchcockian. I thought the opening was really interesting, like a take on Rear Window, to be honest. Him perched up above a Paris square, looking at all the goings on, as it were, in the apartments opposite, which I thought was nice. And I thought it was a really well-made film in terms of the movie-making activity on show, as you would expect from David Fincher film. But I thought the story was just overly simplistic and nothing that we haven't seen many, many times before. At the end of the day, it's kind of just a revenge movie, isn't it? Just on rinse and repeat in different locations. And we see those trotted out by the likes of Netflix and Amazon in low budget B movie things all the time. And this one was much the same. Also, that voiceover, I'm afraid I'm with Andy on this one. One thing I absolutely loathe in films in general is voiceovers. It's a tell, don't show approach. This wasn't really tell, don't show. This was kind of the internal monologue going on in the hitman's head. And some of what he was saying was interesting, but the way in which he said it in this low monotone voice, it was something like you hear on those sleep things that you put on before you go to sleep. So I was a bit stuck in terms of a score. I ended up going with a 7 for this one because I think it is a well-made film. Would I want to watch it again? No, not particularly. Emma?
So I had to check because I have written the review that I haven't published. I was overly generous. Like in my review, I've put a 9, but I think it's an 8 from me.
8. Okay. Andy?
Just very quickly on the voiceover thing. Harrison Ford hated the voiceover on the original Blade Runner.
Yes.
It's a very different film when you see the subsequent Blade Runners without the voiceover. I just wonder what this would have been like without the voiceover, telling us what he's doing. I can see what you're doing. Where he's going. I can see where you're going.
Yeah.
You know.
Fassbender is such a good actor. You can see it all in his face anyway, can't you?
Exactly. And the Blade Runner ones, I think, without the narration, are the better films. I gave this a 6.
Right. So that's a 7, 8, 15, 21 divided by 3 is a 7 out of 10. So again, that's just crept over the line to be a marginal hit for The Killer. Right. I realised I skipped over something on before this film, which is our look at the top 10 films in the UK and Ireland at the moment. So let's just run through that list. At number 10, still clinging on, you'll be delighted, Andy, is The Exorcist Believer. That's now made just over 6 million quid at the box office. Also hanging on there at number 9 is The Great Escaper. That's made £4.8 million, which is not too bad. Taylor Swift, the era's concert. Not really a film, is it? Apparently it is. And that has made £12 million. Not the highest revenue in the films in the list. And on the page in front of me, by the way, the highest one of all at the moment is Interstellar, which must be on re-release. I've not seen it out at any cinemas, but it's up there as being at number 11 in the box office this week, with a overall box office £21 million. Anyway, number 7 is Paw Patrol, the Mighty Movie. That's made a creditable 7.5 millions. Dream Scenario that we just talked about, £385,000. Anatomy of a Fall, which must have come out a few days earlier, I guess, is number 5 with £413,000. At number 4, we've got Five Nights at Freddy's, which is just about scraping £10 million, 9.9 million. Killers of the Flower Moon, still doing well, 4 weeks in release at number 3. That's made just over £9 million. And The Trolls Band Together, been knocked off the top spot. That has made 13.95. Still there at number 2. 13.95. That is going to drop like a stone because all the little sprogs are back at school, aren't they? So, and at number 1, straight in, as you might expect, is The Marvels. Now, I read that this had a very low opening weekend when it came out. It's made 3.7 million in its first week in the UK. So, not stellar, but decent sort of revenue. And I suspect that will probably hang around because I think there are a number of us who might want to go and see that again. And so we might get double returns on that one. Right, so that's the top 10. We're going on now to films which only one of us have seen. At least I think that's the case. And I'm going to pick up this next one, which is How to Have Sex. It's a educational video. No, it's not an educational video. It's a story about 3 young girls who have just done their exams, and they head off to a retreat abroad, shall we say, for fun and partying. Here's a clip.
I do us a favour and wake Tara up.
Ain't she yours?
My mum's life, I'm not joking.
I just look proper, yeah?
Where have you been?
Best holiday ever.
So I'm not the target audience for this film, I have to say. And I never, ever wanted to do this sort of holiday, even when I was that sort of age. I'm not sure those holidays were around then, but it was around a time where Club 1830 holidays were coming in, and there were cheap holiday jets down to the Greek islands and the French islands. And that idea of just going on a holiday like that and just getting drunk the whole time had no appeal to me whatsoever. So this is a bit of an alien world for me to try to absorb. But having said that, I think one of the great benefits of some films is to open your eyes to this sort of environment that these young people are going through. And this is really expertly delivered. The director is Molly Manning Walker, who is actually the cinematographer on Scrapper that was out a few months ago. And it stars Mia McKenna Bruce that you saw there walking down the street. She is absolutely fantastic in this movie. A real kind of star in the making, I think, in terms of that performance. And there's a real interesting message behind the film. And it makes me think that this film should get shown to 15 and 16-year-olds as a part of the school curriculum, to say, look, just be aware of if you're going to go abroad on one of these things and you are going to drink a lot, just be aware of where that can lead, because it leads to some very dark places in this film, very predictable places, but very dark places for the young girl at the lead of this. So it wasn't my cup of tea in terms of a film I would necessarily want to watch again, but I do think it was a really well made film, and it is an important film that young people should watch and respect and start a debate about. So for that reason, I gave this one an 8 out of 10. It's that balance that I always get in my head between, do I rate a film as good because it's a really well made film and good, or do I rate a film because it's one I really want to go and see again? This was more the former than the latter, but I think it was a really crackingly made film, and so 8 out of 10 for that one.
I think one of the problems with that one, though, Bob, was that we knew it was only on in limited cinemas around the area. You don't want to type into Google how to have sex Bristol. You just don't.
Emma,
I had to miss this one.
Can I just say, especially if you've got the 3 letters in front of your name like I have.
Very good. Yes, that's very funny. Right. Okay. Before we move on to the film, we're going to do something different. I've no idea whether this is going to work or not.
Oh no!
But we're going to do this. We're going to have a little quiz. Dr. Bob's movie montage mystery.
Mine goes blank already.
I have explained the rules to the teams here in terms of what we're going to do. I'm going to be showing some stills from a particular film, and what you should have in front of you is a piece of paper with 1 to 5 written down. Andy's looking blankly. Everybody else is nodding. Andy's looking blank. Yeah, okay.
No, I've got it.
So in each round, as I show each still, you need to write an answer, and if you don't know what it is, or you don't want to guess yet, then just write "dunno" or put a scratch through it. If you get the answer right, you get the number of points appropriately. So there's 50 points for getting it in the first picture, 40 points for the second, and so on. If you get it wrong, you get 10 points deducted. So it's best, if you don't know, to put a blank, scribble against the answer and say you don't know, than to guess wrongly. Otherwise, you might end up with a low score. And we also have, stolen from friends, the Wicked Wango card. And with a Wicked Wango card, you can ask me, play a Wicked Wango card before any picture is shown, and I will personally text you either your choice, the year of the film or the director of the film, and but that will halve any score that you get, or quarter any score if you play 2 cards. All right, clear as mud. Here comes the first scene. So get ready with your pen.
Mine's gone blank already.
That's the first one. Right, we're going to go straight on to number 2. So if you don't want to guess that one, put a cross against that number 1, and we're going to go on to number 2. Does anybody want to play a Wicked Wango card? No, we're going on to number 2. No takers. Has anybody guessed yet? Nope.
I haven't guessed.
Familiar.
Oh. He's playing it dangerously, is Reverend Godfrey. Right, here's number 3. Okay. And number 4, the penultimate frame.
Not true.
Anybody wanted to guess? No?
I feel like I should know it from the colour palette, but
Yeah,
The
that's
first
the
two
point.
were-
Yeah.
More obvious than those two for me, but
This I'll give you a clue that this is from the top 100 Empire films.
Oh, well, that narrows
And-
it down.
Well, I'm just going to say it's not. It's not. This is the last picture for 10 points. Here you go, number 5. Right. Do you have an answer? Show me your
might as
pieces
well.
of paper. Show me your pieces of paper.
yeah, I did exactly the same thing.
What was? I can't see yours, Andy. Hold yours closer.
Really? What's a?
I didn't have a clue.
I think that's well. The answer is
This is like those things they have on Have I Got News for You, where they don't do it the following week.
Amelie.
I
So-
almost went for that. The second picture. I just
So
wasn't sure.
Emma scored
Finish in order.
10 points. Scott scored 10 points, and Andy, who I think made 4 wrong guesses,
No,
scores
nothing.
minus 40 points. So that's the first round. We'll keep a running total of scores as we go.
We get VAR involved in this.
So we are moving on back to films again, and it's Andy's turn now with a new film with a Christmassy feel to it. Andy, do you want to introduce your film?
Oh yes, okay. So I thought you were going to mention another film there, Bob, for a minute. So Mary and Joseph are off to Bethlehem, singing as they go. New musical from the guy who brought us Glee and the man who was behind Disney's High School Musical, and it's called Journey to Bethlehem. Very appropriate for the time of year that's coming up. Here's a clip.
Joseph, I feel like we're already friends, no?
Harry, God has chosen you to have a son, the King of all kings.
Well, that's something new, isn't it? Singing and dancing.
Singing, all dancing. Adam Anders, who, as I say, was the guy behind the music for High School Musical and the TV series Glee. This is his directorial debut, and he has chosen to tell us the Nativity story in a way it's never been told before, i.e. Mary and Joseph, everybody else singing and dancing. I really enjoyed this. I got to interview Adam. He, like me, happens to be a believer in the story, and he said it's taken him 17 years to get this to the screen. He first wanted to do this 17 years ago. A young woman carrying a baby. What he's done is that he's taken us behind the scenes a little bit of the Nativity story. So what effect would Mary's pregnancy have had on her family? I mean, just accept the story for a moment. An angel comes, she's pregnant, son of God. What effect would that have had on her family? What effect would that have had on her relationship with her friends in Nazareth where she was growing up? What effect would that have had on Joseph? And I really love that because it's something that I've often thought about over the years. Mary would have been deemed a harlot. Mary would have probably been kicked out of Nazareth where she lived for having sex before marriage. That was the penalty in those days. Mary would have been really badly looked upon for getting pregnant before marriage. So I think this is one reason why she escapes for a while. She goes to visit her cousin Elizabeth, who it turns out is an old lady pregnant with John the Baptist. The music is very High School Musical. It's very poppy. It's very teen orientated. I've I had a really good time. Antonio Banderas is in this playing King Herod, and he gets a big solo number. And we know from films like Evita that he's pretty good at singing. The story does take a few liberties with the biblical account. So the wise men turn up at the. I'm sorry to ruin everybody's nativity plays. Okay, the wise men did not go to the stable. Okay, they were not there on the night Jesus was born. The wise men, according to the Bible, went to a house and saw a toddler. Okay, so this is why Herod asked for all the baby boys up to 2 years old to be killed. Sorry if that's ruined.
You're destroying our hopes and dreams here.
I know. Actually, the three wise men in this are played for comic effect, which is something quite new. They're like the Marx Brothers of the film, deliberately played for comic effect. They're sort of bunglers and comic comedians. I really enjoyed it. I thought it's a different take on the nativity story, but it sticks fairly close to the Bible, apart from having the wise men turn up at the stable, which they never did. So yeah,
is there a song, and do they have a lyric to rhyme with myrrh? Go on.
Yes, they do, but I don't want to give away any spoilers. The soundtrack album is available, and I can't think off the top of my head what that lyric is, Bob. Fiona Palmero plays Mary. Milo Manham plays Joseph. We meet Gabriel. We meet King Herod. King Herod's son is given the job of killing all the baby boys in Bethlehem, 2 years old and under, which we know is something that happened. That's the one dark element of this story. And again, slightly unbiblical, but never mind. It's I thought this was a good, entertaining film aimed at anyone who wants to have a nice, happy Christmas and be reminded of really what it's all about. There is a Christ in Christmas, everybody. So it's good fun.
It's quite surprising. It's quite surprising in some ways. This hadn't been done before, isn't it? That
yeah.
On the back of The Greatest Showman and other successful musicals.
I mean, we've seen the nativity scene in films like Ben-Hur. Ben-Hur starts with the nativity scene. Monty Python, of course, Life of Brian starts with the nativity scene. The BBC did a series a few years back called called The Nativity, in which actually the writer, I will tell you guys, the writer was an atheist, but by the time he finished writing the script for the Nativity, the BBC production, he'd become a believer, looking into the facts and the historical evidence for it all. It's actually Mary talking to a 6-year-old Jesus, telling him the story of what happened.
Okay.
So that's quite a novel approach to it.
Sounds interesting. Is this going to get a cinema release? Do you know?
It's showing in my local Cineworld as from Friday. So yes, it's getting a cinema release. And I would say, I did say to the director, it's a bit of a shame it's being released at the moment. They could have done maybe with holding this off to nearer Christmas, perhaps. But, Christmas, we're going to get the Muppet Christmas Carol reissued. We're going to get, It's a Wonderful Life reissued and so on.
Well,
so
the Greatest Showman was in cinemas for like 15 weeks or so, wasn't it? So
yeah. But stick this in the cinema now. Get people to go and see it. Maybe they'll go and see it again nearer Christmas. If you want to get your Christmas off to a good start and be reminded of the reason for the season, as we say in church, go see Journey to Bethlehem by Adam and...
Okay.
You've definitely sold this one to me, Andy. I was just looking just now. It's not at our Cineworld up here, but there are very limited showings at our View. So I might be able to squeeze that in, possibly.
Yeah, I mean, it's just good fun. It's just a different way to tell the familiar story. And
I'm very familiar with the story, and I'm into the High School Musical and Glee. So, we're all familiar, but I like that
head away.
When I spoke to Adam Anders, I did say to him, what is his religious conviction? And he said, "Did you see the start of the film?" And I said, "Yes." And right at the start of the film, there's a caption on screen that says, "This is absolutely based on a true story." So if you want to know where he's coming from, that's where he's coming from. Okay. And of course, I tend to agree. I do agree with him. But yeah, it's worth seeing.
Moving on. Score out of 10, Andy?
Oh, an 8. It's just enjoyable.
8 out of 10.
Yeah,
Good stuff.
lovely film.
Final film we're looking at. This is one that I've seen. I know you guys have got the screener for this, but this is a documentary. It's out in cinemas in Scotland at the moment. I don't know whether we'll get a wider viewing, but this is called Loch Ness. They created a monster, and as the name implies, this is about the search for Nessie, and specifically about a period in the 1970s where basically all hell broke loose around Loch Ness in the search for the creature. Here's a clip.
Long neck, smallish head, and a huge hump body, which I reckon was 30 feet long.
I've really got to get this photo. I feel that I'm the one that's going to get it.
It was just interesting, and we didn't make money out of it or anything.
So, this is directed by John McLavity, and it's a really interesting watch. I have to say, I went into it not entirely sure whether it would maintain my interest for the 90-minute runtime, but it really did. It often amazes me in these documentaries how they actually go about making them in terms of digging up the footage that they actually show. I mean, obviously, a lot of the Loch Ness footage of the researchers and so on, that's probably available from specific people. But there's all sorts of little snippets about Loch Ness that have been dug up. There's a piece of Blue Peter. There's Parkinson interviewing David Attenborough. There's Leonard Nimoy on a mysterious Worlds, I think it was, series. There's John Craven's Newsround. How do you find a little clip of John Craven's Newsround in the years and years of John Craven's Newsround? So I actually have great respect for documentary makers about how they actually go about finding all of this stuff to edit into the program. And you'd think it would just be a kind of linear type of story about, yeah, these people came to look for the creature and these people came and so on. But not at all. There was all sorts of shenanigans going on as the documentary goes into. And that guy there saying he wants to be the one to do the picture, that's a guy called Frank Searle, who's a bit of a Cockney wide boy, ex-military. And he's clearly a bit of a sex god. You wouldn't think so to look at him. But he had various kind of Girl Fridays, as he called, turning up because he was famous for having this research and taking pictures of the monster, who disappeared into his little tiny caravan. And the less said about that, the better. And one of his helpers was that other lady you saw there on the screen, Liev Peaton, who has some very interesting stories about him. There's also a Chinese promoter called Yoshio Ku, who actually was a promoter for the likes of Muhammad Ali and so on. And he brought a whole team. He's kind of a millionaire and entrepreneur, and he brought his own Japanese team to try to capture Nessie or multiple Nessies and take them on world tour, a bit like King Kong in the original story. So loads of bonkers characters, loads of bonkers stories. It all goes incredibly interesting at one point with some dangerous, potentially murderous stuff going on. And it's a very interesting documentary, and I commend it to the house if you want to give that one a look. In terms of rating, I can't remember what I gave this one. I think I gave it an 8 out of 10. It might have been another 7. I'll check that. Let's say 7.5 out of 10. So that's the films we're looking at today. We've gone on a bit. We're over our hour for once for this podcast. Just to flag in any other business, some of the films coming out this weekend, there's some real heavy hitters coming out this month, one of which is this film here.
Anything else I should know about?
No, just be yourself. They'll love you. It's relaxed, I promise.
they're reading Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire there, which kind of sets the year. And the things they're talking about while they're reading Harry Potter and Goblet of Fire, best left off this podcast. I think, Emma, you and I have seen Saltburn, haven't you? I don't guess you other guys have not yet seen it in preview.
I've booked it for Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm seeing it Friday, hopefully. Yeah.
It's a film you will remember. Let's just put it like that. It's we are going to have an interesting discussion about it next week.
I particularly remember some of it very well.
I'm sure you do. Yes. So there will be some interesting discussions on that one.
Another big film's out on Friday, though.
What's the other big film?
There's Hunger Games.
Oh yes, the Hunger Games.
Hunger Games.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving.
Say the Hunger Games is out. Yeah.
I'm very much looking forward to Thanksgiving.
I think it looks fun.
Yeah.
There's also
I've not
Rustin
actually-
on Netflix.
Yeah.
Could be an Oscar film.
I've not actually seen a trailer for Thanksgiving at all, so
Really?
I have
That's
no
good
idea.
No, I
because it gives
haven't.
too much
No.
away.
Okay, good.
Okay.
I will keep my head down and watch it. So,
Do.
yes, okay. So Napoleon comes out on Wednesday. Maybe if we do our podcast recording next Thursday, we might be able to see it, but we'll see. Okay. Any other business from anybody else? Nope. Okay.
So tempted,
Good stuff.
so tempted, but you guys will yell at me.
No. That,
We've already mentioned it once.
We've mentioned it once. Yes.
It's still on tour, folks. It's still on tour.
It's still on tour, yes. This podcast is again sponsored by Carol Morley's. I've forgotten the name now. Typist, artist,
Pirate King.
Got it, yeah, okay.
That's
Andy,
Right,
you need to get
so-
an interview with her for like a Christmas wrap-up episode or something.
Yeah,
Yes, I think so.
I'll message.
Get her on the podcast.
Yeah, bring her on.
Absolutely.
Bring her on the podcast. We'll do an
But
interview with
that
Carol
means you
Morley.
guys have got to see the film.
Yes, it does.
Well, it's not showing here, but I'm sure it'll show
If I
somewhere.
could
Yeah.
see it, I would. Yes.
Simon
Right.
may have never interviews anyone unless he's seen the film.
Yeah. So we're going into next week's podcast with Emma on 10 points, Scott on 10 points, Andy on minus 40 points. And we'll see you again next week. Thanks, guys.
Take care, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening or watching Flickering Dreams. You can find the video version on YouTube and the audio version on all major podcast platforms. And don't forget to subscribe so you can get each of the weekly episodes as they are released. We'll see you at the movies.